Hello friends, the Wolves here. Good to see you. This is a Grim Fandango Remastered Any guide, made for beginners. Hopefully to cover all of the tricks and kind of weird things you might be seeing in some of the runs. To my knowledge, there are no guides out there for this game, so I think a lot of people might come into this game looking to run it, see a couple of the faster runs, and have absolutely no context of what's going on. So hopefully we can get some of that stuff into the open and get some new runners in here, or at least if you're just a viewer, you kind of can understand exactly what's going on. But good to have you. Thanks for checking it out. Let's get right into it. This is not going to be a route guide at all. This is going to simply be kind of covering the tech and tricks and stuff that we're using. If you are interested in a route guide, I guess let me know in the comments, and I can get around to it at some point. But I think, if you have this context and you watch, one of the top runs there, you'll probably have an idea of what's going on, and you can kind of decipher things from there. But yeah, I'm going to do my best to go through here and kind of explain things at an accessible level, at least. So all these things kind of start off with settings here, right? So let me get the game up here. So I'll just go in here and straight up go to options here. This is kind of up to dealer's choice, whatever you feel comfortable with. The one thing to call out here is the text mode, which I have highlighted now. Text only is the way you want to go. The big reasoning for this is the two conversations that we have with Nick Virago partway through year 2. These are unskippable text, I guess, dialogues. So if you have voice enabled, the next line of dialogue will only appear after the actor is done speaking. If we do text only, it is a little bit shorter because it doesn't wait for anybody to finish speaking. It just kind of moves on to the next line after a set amount of time, so you actually end up saving a little bit of time by just switching to text. It's a bit of a bummer because obviously the voice acting is excellent in this game, but yeah, worth putting to text only if you're trying to go fast. And speaking of fast, always turn your text speed up to fast. I'm not sure where this is defaulted to, but worth considering that. I'll jump into graphics really quick. So I think this is the default setting here for these. Take this bit with a grain of salt. I have not really spoken to other runners on this. I've mentioned it to people and no one's corrected me, so I assume that everybody's kind of having the same thing, same experience that I have had. But I have tried turning, the brightness, well, not brightness specifically, but like resolution and like the lighting and all this stuff, all these extra bells and whistles along with the graphics down. I've tried running on the original graphics instead of the remastered graphics, and what I found was that the game has a tendency to crash way more often if it's not on like the default settings in terms of graphics. Again, your mileage may vary, and I would love to know what your experiences are with it. I mean, I don't think you'll notice it if you're playing casually, but yeah, when you're speedrunning it, you're kind of like sending an insane amount of inputs through things. You're changing screens a lot faster than you're probably intended to do. And for whatever reason, if anybody was around on my stream when I first started running this game, yeah, we maybe finished like 2 or 3 runs over like my first 10 to 15 attempts or something like that, and they all were lost due to crashes. So that's a pretty bad percentage. So yeah, again, like I recommend just running it this way, both my run as well as High Performance's, which is the basically first and second runs on the board right now, use kind of the default stuff. So I think there's something to it, but I'd be interested to know if that's a wider thing or not. But this is what I use. So from here, those are the big settings. I don't think there's anything special in here, so I do the remastered render as I mentioned. I do 4:3. It doesn't, again, kind of really matter how you do this. I'm sure you can get away with doing widescreen. I tend to use the 4:3 only because there's not any scrolling really in this game, so to kind of keep the window a little bit smaller, I don't know, that's kind of what it is. And I enjoy the borders. I actually use the borders for kind of visual cues and stuff to try to prep my mouse for certain things, so I think it's worth it to do it that way, but you do you. And I think that's pretty much everything on as far as settings go. So this is how I set mine up. One last thing I suppose is the key bindings, right? So this is not the default setting for key bindings. They're set up in a much different way. You're totally welcome to use them, however, I think it's very advantageous to change them. You'll notice that I've moved this to sort of be WASD movement and kind of like almost an FPS, like a first-person shooter style movement here, mainly to just try to keep my left hand, which is my keyboard hand, in one kind of comfortable spot. I don't have to reach too much to do anything. So, you know, we have our movement there. Running is on shift. Examining is right there, kind of nestled in between W and D. Pickup I've moved from P to Q. Q's on the other side there. So you can kind of like do whatever you like, do whatever's comfortable. The advice I'd give you is just to be sure to change them to something that you like, because I don't know. I find that the closer all the buttons are together, the less hand movement that I need to do, and that means less hesitation to, you know, where am I doing this or that, you know, so you get a good time. But this is my setup. You know, you can do whatever you'd like, whatever's comfortable. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, it's kind of related to this, is skipping dialogue lines. I have this bound to C. It's normally bound to period or stop, whatever you like to call it. In the kind of adventure game speedrunning community, we call this dot skip. Skipping dialogue lines is kind of unique, actually, in Grim Fandango Remastered compared to a lot of the other LucasArts games out there, in that one key press of C, for instance, here, will only clear out one single line of dialogue. This is a lot different than, say, playing Secret of Monkey Island, where if you hold down, you know, period, it will just continuously send that input in, and it will basically, yeah, just kind of rip through dialogue. It'll just keep sending skip dialogue out, so you can kind of hold it down and clear through a whole conversation as fast as possible. But yeah, this one only does one at a time, so that means that there's a bit of mashing to deal with. So if we're going through a dialogue like this, and I have it bound to C, I can basically kind of mash C, and it'll kind of go through a line of dialogue. One thing that's interesting about key bindings is that just because you've rebound them somewhere else does not mean that the old button that was used is replaced at all, or like kind of that has no functionality. So like I said, this is normally bound to period, but I've moved it over to C. So with that logic in mind, I can use both C and period to skip lines. So I now have two buttons to skip. So if I kind of mash, you know, C and period, I'm going twice as fast with the dialogue, right? So the next step past that is to also include left and right mouse button, which also skips dialogue lines. And you'll see on some of the older runs that in their notes and descriptions and stuff that they're like, oh, I used, you know, period and left mouse button, and I'm like mashing the two of them together. So since then, I found that, you know, you can use two different keyboards. So if you remap dot skip somewhere else, you can use both of those buttons, and then additionally right mouse button also skips. So you basically have four buttons, and that's what we call the 4-button skip method for these, you know, going through dialogue. So you're kind of going to be mashing on 4 different buttons. As long as you kind of roll through them really quick, you kind of have very close to the speed as you would on another LucasArts game, just holding dot skip down. So let's talk about item sliding. Item sliding is probably the most important trick to learn out of the bunch. Obviously, the text skipping is huge, but this is kind of the other big thing. So what is item sliding? Item sliding is this, basically. It's going from one place to another while taking out an item of some kind or putting an item away, and basically continuing moving while we do that. So normally, and this is the whole reason it's fast, right, is the fact that, you know, casually, if you want to take an item in or out, you need to stop moving. You need to go into this menu, you need to go through all of your stuff, right? So that's really slow. But yeah, I mean, if I want to go up here and I want to take something out here, I will literally continue moving and take this thing out. So how am I doing this? And it's quite simple. The number keys at the top of your keyboard, 1 through 9, are all assigned to different pieces of your inventory. The numbers are given to the items based on how you pick them up. If you give an item away, the next item kind of slides into the spot behind it. So, you know, whatever was on 4 moves to 3 if you gave the third item away, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of a huge time save there, to be able to move around and basically say, okay, I want to do this, I want to move there, you know, I want to take this out. And you can kind of do all kinds of stuff. And it's called an item slide because Manny slides whilst doing this stuff. So let's talk about some more advanced item slots, this is a part in El Maro, for instance, where we can skip a cutscene by avoiding a trigger on the ground. So normally when we walk over to this spot here, partway through this sequence, we'd normally be taking a left to go fill up our balloons with the goo stuff that comes out of the tubes there. In any case, well, as we pass through here, you might remember that there's a cutscene that occurs with the elevator demon. He kind of comes out and gives us a whole bunch of, bunch of clues to what's going on. The trigger on the ground is right here. So anytime you cross this line for the first time, once that's there, you'll need to, you'll get that cutscene when crossing it. However, if you item slide across it, it doesn't happen. You kind of avoid it because this sliding animation and kind of inventory management sort of overrides that cutscene. So as we head back, we want to do the same thing, and we're good to go. So we can kind of skip this cutscene both ways. So within the route that we currently have, we come out to go over here, we come back, do it again. We go up and we stick the balloons down the chute and everything, and they come out over here. So we skip this one more time, and then we go in here and do the whole 9. Additionally, there's another skip here, where when we go into this room, you can actually avoid having to pick up the fire extinguisher, and you skip the whole elevator demon burning themselves cutscene. I've been calling these things slide skips, for lack of a better term. Okay, I want to talk about drifting, or what I like to call drifting. So we're in the Bone Wagon right now, and you can drive around if you're casually doing this, or this is kind of how you would drive, right? You kind of use WASD. You can use shift to kind of sprint, kind of put the gas on. But there's a cool technique that was found, I think TKS Shrek, or Retro TKS, I think is the name they go by. Found this cool little thing, and it's used on year 3 to some interest as well, but I'll use this as an example. But if you're ever in a vehicle, as long as you come to a complete stop and you double click, you can kind of do like a really fast U-turn here. So this is kind of a cool thing, but you just need to be able to be in a complete stop before you do it. Otherwise, you'll continue to kind of go that direction. So you can kind of see, you can kind of do quick turns. You can kind of come around. And then, for this instance, we just did tower. We come out and we try to do a quick U-turn over here to go do the rest of this section here. So yeah, if we go here and try to pick up the axe, you'll see that it's quite slow, right? You're kind of dragging this heavy axe around. You can see that I am turning a little bit quick, but again, same kind of action in that, like you are you come to a complete stop, then you click somewhere else, you'll quickly kind of drift, turn around. But there's another level to this particular one here. So let me put the axe down here. So if I do the same thing, but I'm going to hold shift down when I let go of the button here, and use the verb, I guess, on the verb coin. I'm holding shift, I'm going to let go, I'm holding shift. Something interesting happens, and suddenly we're just flying around. We're basically sprinting. It takes like the sprint from the shift and comes in here, and then you can do some cool stuff like do this really fast, this turnaround section here. So yeah, this kind of stuff does help. We use it for the Bone Wagon, we use it for the axe here, and then the other bit is the forklift. And I think it particularly helps in the forklift a ton because I don't know if you're like me, I've lost runs on the forklift before I knew how to do that. But being able to turn around super fast, or kind of I don't know, wiggle yourself into the right spot, you end up buying a ton of time, which is hugely important on these speed runs here. So another and kind of final bit of tech I want to go over is something that was found on a few different casual streams actually. But something that I've been calling instant coffee based on a similar glitch in AGS games. If you've ever played an Adventure Game Studio game, which if you're running this, you probably have. There's a glitch called instant coffee that allows you to kind of interact with an item without being next to it at all. and it's an interesting thing. It's called that because it was found on Ben Jordan Case 2, and you're actually able to enter the coffee shop from the other side of Dunesburg, pretty far away, and it's like a I don't know 5-10 seconds time save, which is pretty huge for that game. But because you instantly get the coffee, we call it instant coffee, and now I've been using that name ever since for anything like this. But ultimately, this is the act of Manny, who's not next to the key, which for whatever reason isn't showing up on here. But I think this is a glitch with with this save file or something. But yeah, basically we can take Manny here, and he'll grab the key from a long way away here. So you can see he's shaking the pole. He's actually not at the pole. He's picked up the key. He hasn't actually got the key. It's pretty interesting. But there are little things like that across the game that can be used. Another spot that we have this instant coffee glitch can be found here on the boat. So in this case, we've moved the boat. We need to hit this button 3 times and interact with the anchor, and then come back and grab this button here. We can actually use Glottis's kind of majorly big hitbox here. So you can see we've kind of run into Glottis a little bit. He's almost like a wall here. We can do a similar thing like that, and we just give him a little boop on the belly, and then we've actually warped over here, so then you can use your I have it mapped to space, but kind of your action key. I think it's on enter normally. You can kind of go from here and do the whole thing, which is kind of cool. So these are, again, really small time saves. It's nothing to reset the game over if you don't get it. I don't think it's like a second here, a few seconds there. But they're really cool, and they're super low risk, because if you miss it, you're just going to run and push the button or do whatever you need to do anyway. So it's like you're not really losing time. You're kind of just going for extra time saves here. There's another one you can get here as well. So that's the easier one, I think, to get this. But if you can tuck your way into there, you can actually get that one as well. You just warp back over here, which is kind of cool. All right, last bit to kind of talk about here. I wanted to talk about RNG a little bit, and this is more not to how to manipulate the RNG, but more about how it works, kind of where it is. That way you have a little bit of context on what you're up against here. So first bit is this roulette table, which I think everybody knows is RNG. I think this is actually on a global timer. I don't have any hard evidence of that, but it's I think these bet calls will happen constantly throughout the game, or through year 2, I should say. Like, it's on a constant cycle. So I think there's a proverbial bust to grab, if you will. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's about a 30-second swing from a bad table to a good table. There's 3 different tables. So just to kind of explain how this works, you see that there's a light here now, and there's 2 other lights. Each of these are representative of a table downstairs. The table we want to be able to continue, and this is sort of the last thing we do to get out of year 2 into year 3, is we need this light to be lit. So, this would be a slow table. This is what I call an average table, and then this is fast table. We can continue to the next area, which is the boat, as soon as that is lit up. So yeah, anyways, the point of the matter is, I do think it's on a global timer. There's no way to clearly kind of affect it, but what I tend to do is I just kind of do some text skipping until our correct one is, and then that's how we do it. So any folks who know my stream know my woes with Meche here. This is another bit of RNG, which is quite interesting. So the puzzle is that you need to move this ashtray out of the way, and Meche needs to do a little tap onto herself here, just like this. Of course, I get it first try when I'm not actually speedrunning. But yeah, because ultimately we need these stockings here to continue, because we need to do a trade with Chapito. But basically there's a randomized group of animations here. We've got something going on with this like kind of typewriter-y thing. I think that's what that is. I don't know. There's this grabbing a file out animation, and then there's the tapping, right? So there's 3 things. And this is according to Tim Schafer, who, shouts out to Havorius, reached out and tried to get an explanation via Twitter, and from what best that Tim Schafer could remember, that these animations are randomized, and but there's a few things that are weighted a bit more than others, but that's all that they could remember. So in any case, there's a bunch of different theories on how to do it. Hit Marty, if I recall correctly, was talking about the grab here. When the grab happens for one of these files, that's a good time to go. I often will go off of the leg here. When the leg moves, I move. Havorius recommended this sort of like point. Let me see if I can show it off here a little bit. So if we kind of rush the dialogue a little bit here, there's a point there, that kind of like visual glitch of the point. So finally, I wanted to talk about the last bit of RNG, which again, I suspect that people know how this works, the Kino board. So I don't have it completely unlocked right now in this particular save, but the way that this puzzle works is you have to guess the last number, like the one number that changed from the first viewing to the second viewing. The fastest way to go about this is just to get good at memorizing. You kind of look at the image more as a pattern rather than a bunch of numbers. That's how I do it, but you might be better than I am. If you've got a good memory and stuff, you'll probably be fine. But if you're just starting off and you're getting really hung up on this whole thing, you can do what I used to do. And again, shouts out to Havorius who figured this out. So if we take a look here, we've got a 5, 22, and a 30 on the board. And sometimes, especially as you're doing all the stuff down here, there's going to be a ton of numbers on here. You can get up to 5, 10 numbers, something like that. So I see a 10 just popped up. So what I used to do is exit, and I just go right back in again. And by doing this, you've actually reset the Kino board. So kind of get changed, go through the thing again. You're just at 30 now. And you'll always have a fresh Kino board. So it's super, super easy to remember the next one. So it would have popped up as 21. The answer would have been 21. So that's one way to control the RNG on that. And it's not that big of a time loss to go in and out. I think it's certainly worth it on early runs, and then when you kind of want to get into the nitty gritty and you're like, it's time to shave off like 15 seconds or however long it takes to do this, then you can kind of to get into the you can start to wrap your head around the more difficult, well, in my mind difficult kind of Kino strats. But some people are really, really good at it. Shouts out to them. All right, folks, I appreciate you checking this video out. I do hope that it did help if you're a new runner looking to kind of get your feet wet. That's pretty much all of the tech that I can think of at the moment to share. If there's anything I'm missing or you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you as quick as I can. Always happy to help new runners or people just curious about the game. It is a great one, so it's a fun one to speedrun as well. It's a good speed game, so hopefully you'll give it a shot if you haven't already. So for whatever reason, there isn't really a Discord community that's officially associated with Grim Fandango Remastered, despite having 21 runs, I think, as of the posting of this video, which is quite a bit for a point-and-click adventure game. So I'll plug, the one that I'm a part of, at least. It's called Speedy Adventures. It's kind of a collective of different speedrunners of point-and-click adventure games, and kind of the surrounding adventure game type of speedrun community, which is great. Things like Monkey Island or King's Quest. I mentioned a lot of adventure game studio games and things like that. So if you're a fan of any of the speedruns around those games, you're interested in that sense, or maybe you're a speedrunner yourself and want to connect with some other speedrunners that do those games, that's a great place to go. I'll consider it the unofficial Grim Fandango Remastered Discord community. I have put a request in to have it added on the speedrun board, but we'll see if that comes to fruition or not. But in any case, you'd be very welcome there. We use the LucasArts Legacy channels for all the remasters pretty much. So, Full Throttle and has a remastered Grim Fandango here, some other ones as well. So would love to have you over there if that's your cup of tea. You can always reach me over there as well. A lot of other people, even though I'm one of the few people from that group that are running the game, there's a lot of people doing the hard work, the heavy lifting, science, and all those good things. So in any case, wanted to shout those folks out and of course welcome any new runners into there. So I think that's everything there, folks. I do appreciate you checking the video out, and yeah, if you do want to see one of these runs in motion live, you know, another place that you can ask questions or kind of chat with other people that are interested in speedruns. I do runs of these currently, at least on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've been grinding down. My new goal is to get under an hour, so would love to have you over there. That's twitch.tv/thewoofs. But yeah, if you appreciate the video, yeah, definitely leave a comment if you have anything, subscribe or whatever. I don't know, whatever you do on YouTube. Would appreciate that. In any case, I'll catch you on the next one, hoping to have some more YouTube stuff soon, but for now, the guide will do. Catch you on the next one, folks. See ya.